I was humiliated by my husband and left for a younger woman, but when I made a bold move in court. Olivia Carter had always been the sort of woman who blended seamlessly into the background, content with her quiet life and the subtle rhythms of a small, unassuming home. She wasn't one for grand gestures or loud declarations. Her world was built on everyday acts of kindness, dedication, and the hope that love, even if quiet, could be enough to anchor a life. From the moment she married Robert, she believed in the vows they exchanged, in the promise of partnership, even when the days turned dull and the affection less apparent. Robert was a man of charm and ambition, traits that initially drew her in like a moth to a flame. But behind his polished exterior lay a man whose respect for Olivia eroded slowly over the years, replaced by impatience and condescension. Olivia's days had become punctuated by subtle barbs and cold silences, a weight she bore alone, fearing to disrupt the fragile peace of their home. Her friends often urged her to see the signs, the way Robert dismissed her opinions, how he talked over her during conversations, and the way he smiled too long at women half his age when they were out in public. But Olivia clung to hope, believing that beneath his rough edges was a man who still loved her. One chilly autumn evening, that fragile hope shattered. Olivia returned home early from work, a chance coincidence that would change everything. She opened the door to their shared house and was met with the unmistakable laughter of a younger woman, one she had never met but whose presence seemed to fill every corner with a mocking brightness. Robert was there, unapologetic and candid, standing close to Madison, a woman whose youth and vibrancy contrasted starkly with Olivia's weary reflection. The humiliation hit Olivia like a physical blow, her heart pounding, her voice caught in a throat suddenly too tight to speak. In that moment, she felt what so many others had perhaps whispered behind closed doors, that her years of sacrifice, the quiet smiles, the long nights spent supporting Robert's dreams, counted for nothing. The shame curled within her, a cold shadow that threatened to consume her. But beneath the waves of hurt, a different feeling took shape, a fierce ember of determination that refused to be extinguished. No longer would Olivia retreat into herself and endure the silent suffering Robert seemed to demand. The humble woman who once shied away from confrontation now clenched her fists and made a choice, to confront the truths, no matter how painful, and reclaim the dignity she had lost. The path ahead was uncertain, fraught with the possibility of public scrutiny and personal vulnerability, but Olivia knew that survival meant standing up, not stepping back. As she sat alone that night, the weight of the decision pressing down on her, she thought about the life she wanted, not just for herself, but for the children they shared, those innocent witnesses to a crumbling marriage. Would the court hear her voice where Robert's might drown hers out in loud accusations and manipulations? Could a woman like her, simple and understated, challenge a man who wielded power like a weapon? These questions circled in her mind, but she pushed them aside. She had long allowed fear to dictate her actions. Now, it was time for courage to take the lead. Little did she know that this bold choice would lead her into an arena of public scrutiny, where her bravery and vulnerability would be tested beyond anything she had imagined. Yet, the flicker of hope that maybe justice could be hers kept her awake deep into the night, plotting the first steps of a battle she was determined to fight with every ounce of her being. In the days that followed, Olivia began gathering her strength for the inevitable court proceedings. With the quiet resolve of someone who had nothing left to lose, she found an attorney who listened, not to the polished stories Robert would spin, but to her truth. Slowly, painfully, she began to see that the path to reclaiming her life lay not in hiding from the scandal, but in exposing it with clarity and courage. She learned to steel herself against the whispers and the sideways glances, understanding that humiliation did not have to define her. Instead, it could be the catalyst for a transformation. As she prepared to face Robert across the courtroom, Olivia wrestled with a storm of emotions, fear, anger, grief, and an unyielding hope. She realized that this was more than a legal battle. It was a fight for her identity and her worth. Would the world see her as the discarded woman Robert claimed she was? Or could she show them the strength simmering beneath her quiet exterior? This story unfolds from a moment when a woman's spirit is tested to its limits and dared to rise again. It challenges us to consider how we respond to betrayal and humiliation, and whether we allow these wounds to break us or fuel a journey toward justice. As you reflect on Olivia's choice to stand tall in the face of shame, ask yourself, when wronged and underestimated, would you find the courage to fight back and reclaim your dignity? Every woman's story is worth hearing, including hers. The courtroom was a far cry from the quiet sanctuary Olivia had once called home. The walls, cold and unyielding, seemed intent on amplifying every word exchanged, every accusation hurled with calculated precision. Sitting on the plaintiff's side, Olivia felt the weight of countless eyes, some curious, some sympathetic, many skeptical, pressing down on her like an invisible force. Across the aisle, Robert sat with a practiced smirk, his confidence unwavering. He was no stranger to control, to bending narratives in his favor, and he wielded his arrogance like armor. Beside him, Madison's presence was a pointed reminder of the betrayal that had both fractured Olivia's marriage and ignited this battle. But what Robert underestimated was the quiet fire building within Olivia, an unyielding resolve to rewrite the story he tried so hard to script. The early days of the trial were brutal. Robert's legal team portrayed Olivia as a woman set adrift by her own inadequacies, painting a picture of someone who had failed to keep her marriage alive, a faded shadow of a wife unable to meet the demands of a high-profile lifestyle. The accusations stung, suggestions of neglect, jealousy, and even instability. Olivia's heart clenched each time Robert spoke, watching as he twisted facts with a cruel precision. During one particularly harsh cross-examination, Robert sneered, "Isn't it true, Olivia, that you were often absent from your duties as a mother and a wife? That you preferred to hide behind your books and your own fantasies rather than support your family?" The courtroom murmured, doubt flickering in the faces of some jurors. Olivia felt the heat rise to her face, not from shame, but from the injustice of it all. She refused to let his words define her, but the first days in court tested her more than she had anticipated. The whispers outside the courtroom, the pointed looks from strangers, the subtle yet cutting exchanges with Robert, each layer of humiliation threatened to unravel her carefully rebuilt confidence. Her lawyer, a compassionate yet firm woman named Lisa, became a lifeline, providing both legal strategy and emotional support, reminding Olivia that the truth was on her side. "Hold steady," Lisa urged quietly after one draining session. "This isn't over. You're stronger than they think." As the trial progressed, Olivia began to find her footing. Behind her calm exterior, her mind worked fiercely, piecing together the fragments of evidence she had gathered, bank statements revealing Robert's secret finances, messages that proved his lies and infidelities, and testimonies from close friends who had witnessed his double life. The small, careful victories in depositions started to chip away at the facade Robert had so carefully constructed. Olivia's determination became a shield, shielding her from the relentless attacks on her character. She began to voice her truth, not just in legal terms but with a fierce authenticity that commanded attention. Each statement she made was a quiet revolution, an insistence that her story mattered as much as any salacious gossip. Yet, the emotional toll was undeniable. At night, Olivia wrestled with waves of exhaustion and doubt, questioning whether her decision to pursue justice was worth the pain it caused her children, who were caught in the crossfire of harsh realities beyond their years. She worried about the whispers in school hallways, the judgment in the eyes of neighbors, and the loneliness that came with breaking free from a life she had once accepted. It was in these vulnerable moments that she found unexpected strength, letters of encouragement from friends, messages from women who had faced similar betrayals, and the quiet solidarity of those who believed in her right to reclaim her dignity. Whenever despair threatened to consume her, Olivia would recall a phrase that echoed in her mind: "Courage is not the absence of fear, but the triumph over it." All the while, Robert became more aggressive, desperate to maintain control as the walls closed in. In one particularly cruel encounter during a public hearing, he mocked Olivia's appearance and dismissed her efforts to seek truth. His words were weapons, designed to belittle and diminish. But the courtroom had begun to shift. Whispers of admiration for Olivia's bravery mingled with the skepticism directed at Robert's bluster. The younger woman, Madison, who had seemed an emblem of Robert's new life, revealed cracks under the weight of the unfolding drama, her initial confidence wavering in the face of Olivia's unwavering resolve. The tension mounted as the trial edged closer to the point of no return. Olivia found herself at a crossroads, to continue bearing Robert's assaults in silence or to take a risk that could dismantle his entire narrative. There was a stale, heavy anticipation in the air, as if the room collectively held its breath, waiting for Olivia's next move. Could she summon the audacity to unveil the truth that had remained buried for too long? As the judge called the court to order for the upcoming session, Olivia's heart pounded not only with fear but with a fierce determination that this chapter of her life would finally be hers to write. In moments like these, the real battle began, not just for justice, but for the restoration of a woman's shattered dignity. Have you ever faced a moment when standing up felt terrifying but necessary? What would you risk to reclaim your own truth? As Olivia's story unfolds, those questions linger, reminding us all that the journey to justice often begins in the depths of vulnerability. The air in the courtroom was thick with tension on the day Olivia made her bold move, an act that would ripple far beyond the sterile walls surrounding them, shaking the very foundation of the narrative Robert had so meticulously built. Olivia had spent countless sleepless nights preparing for this moment, meticulously organizing every shred of evidence, every witness statement, every financial record. This was her reckoning, the moment where silence would no longer be an option, where truth demanded to be seen and heard. As Robert's smug expressions lingered across the room, Olivia felt a surge of calm determination settle over her, a quiet storm ready to break. When the judge called the proceedings to order, Olivia rose with conviction. Her attorney handed her a thick file, one she opened with steady hands to reveal the documents Robert had desperately tried to keep hidden, accounts of secret expenditures, payments to Madison, tax returns omitting substantial assets, all highlighting years of deceit woven beneath the surface of their marriage. She began to speak, her voice firm, resonating through the room with clarity and strength. "Your Honor," Olivia said, eyes locked on the panel, "these are records showing a pattern of financial deception. Money taken from the family accounts, concealed assets, and funding for a lifestyle I was deliberately kept unaware of." The courtroom held its breath as the evidence was laid bare, each document unraveling Robert's carefully maintained facade. Robert's smug confidence faltered for the first time, his brows knitting together in anger and disbelief. He tried to interject, to dismiss the revelations as fabrications, but Olivia's attorney anticipated his attacks, swiftly producing witness statements from Robert's former associates corroborating the evidence. The hearing room buzzed with murmurs, curiosity turning to shock as the full scope of Robert's betrayal unfolded before their eyes. Madison shifted uncomfortably in her seat, the vibrant mask of confidence slipping away as the realities of their situation settled in. This wasn't just a divorce, it was a reckoning of betrayals far deeper than anyone had anticipated. Olivia's heart pounded, but her face remained steady. Behind her resolve danced a whirlwind of pain, memories of years spent in denial, the quiet nights wondering about the man she thought she knew, the countless moments when she pushed down the gnawing suspicion that had now been unleashed like a storm. As she sat back down, a stunned silence clung to the room, interrupted only by the somber tone of the judge acknowledging the gravity of the disclosures. For the first time, the power dynamics shifted palpably. Robert's arrogance dimmed, replaced by a simmering rage and panic as his world began to crumble. In the aftermath of that dramatic revelation, the courtroom atmosphere changed radically. Olivia's legal team gained newfound respect from the judge and observers alike, while Robert's efforts to discredit her seemed hollow beside the evidence. However, this victory came at a cost. Robert's tactics turned increasingly aggressive outside the courtroom as well, rumors and whispers spread, aimed at discrediting Olivia's reputation and questioning her motivations. She faced the harsh reality that justice was not only about facts, but about surviving the personal and social battles that accompanied exposure. And yet, each attack only steeled her further. She refused to be silenced, to allow the pain inflicted upon her to morph into regret or retreat. During one sobering moment away from the public eye, Olivia confided in her closest friend, Sarah, who had stood steadfastly by her side. "It's like peeling back layers of a wound I've carried for so long," Olivia admitted softly. "But if I don't do this now, if I don't show the world who he really is, then what's the point?" Sarah grasped her hand firmly, eyes shining with pride. "You're fearless. Remember, your strength isn't just for you, it's for everyone who's been told they're invisible." Those words lingered with Olivia, reminding her that her fight extended beyond personal vindication. It was a powerful statement against silencing and oppression. As the trial edged closer to its conclusion, tensions simmered beneath a fragile calm. The final hearings promised to be a battleground of wills, with Robert determined to lash out in his desperation to hold on to control. Yet, Olivia was unyielding, buoyed by her courageous revelations and the small but growing support she found in the community surrounding her story. There were moments when doubt crept in, when the nights stretched longer with anxiety, but the truth she had unearthed served as a beacon through the darkest hours. Olivia's bold move in court was not just a legal strategy, it was a triumph of spirit. It challenged not only the man who had sought to diminish her but the very narrative that women like her often face, that submission and silence are their only options. With her dignity reawakened and her resolve unbroken, Olivia was poised to claim what was rightfully hers. The eyes of the courtroom were fixed upon her as the final chapters of this battle awaited, and in that anticipation resided a collective hope that justice would not only be served but that a woman's courage could truly reshape a destiny once thought lost. If you were in Olivia's shoes, would you dare to unveil truths long hidden, risking everything for justice? Consider the power of truth, how often it waits silently beneath the surface, waiting for the moment of reckoning. The tension in the courtroom was palpable as Olivia prepared to present the evidence she had painstakingly gathered. Each document represented more than just numbers or messages, it was a testament to the years of deceit and betrayal Robert had carefully concealed. She felt a knot tighten in her stomach, but she knew this was the moment when her courage would either crumble or catapult her into a new chapter of life. As the judge called the court to order, Olivia stood, clutching the file close like a shield, her hand steady despite the whirlwind inside. The room went silent as Olivia's attorney began to outline the financial discrepancies uncovered during their investigation. Olivia watched Robert's face morph from smug arrogance to a scowl, his composure slipping with each piece of damning evidence introduced. Bank statements revealed secret transfers to an account under Madison's name, text messages showed Robert's intentions to hide assets from the court, tax documents were manipulated to keep income concealed. The weight of these revelations was sinking in for everyone present, and Olivia felt a surge of quiet triumph. This was more than a legal victory, it was a reclamation of power. Robert's defense was fierce but increasingly desperate. He tried to discredit the testimony of friends and colleagues who had come forward, calling their credibility into question and accusing Olivia of fabricating evidence out of spite. However, the concrete documents spoke louder than his accusations. Madison sat nearby, her usual confident demeanor cracked, revealing flashes of doubt and discomfort as the truth unraveled before her eyes. The young woman's alliance with Robert suddenly seemed fragile, a house built on shaky foundations now beginning to collapse. Throughout the proceedings, Olivia felt the tumult of emotions churning inside her, pain for the years lost, anger at the betrayal, but beneath it all, a growing sense of resilience. These moments tested her in ways she had never anticipated. Each question from Robert's lawyer sought to rattle her composure, questioning her decisions, her character, even her worth as a mother and wife. Yet, Olivia stood firm, drawing strength from the support of her attorney, Lisa, and the quiet encouragement of those who knew the truth of her journey. Behind the closed doors of her mind, Olivia vowed she would not let fear or humiliation dictate her narrative anymore. One afternoon, after a grueling day in court, Olivia sat with Lisa in the quiet of the office, reviewing the next steps. The emotional toll was clear, but Lisa reminded her that their path was just beginning. "Robert won't go down without a fight," Lisa warned gently. "He'll use every trick to undermine you." Olivia nodded, her resolve hardening. "Then I will be ready. This is more than a case, it's my life." Outside the courthouse, whispers and glances followed Olivia, some tinged with sympathy, others laced with judgment. She wrestled with the knowledge that this battle was not just legal but deeply personal, something that would echo through every corner of her life. Nightmares invaded her sleep, replaying scenes of confrontation and rejection, but with each sunrise, she rose anew, learning to wear her scars as markers of her strength. As the trial neared its climax, Olivia found unexpected allies, witnesses who spoke of Robert's duplicity, family members who stood by her, and even others who had suffered silent injuries behind closed doors. This growing chorus of support buoyed Olivia's spirit, reminding her that she was not alone in her fight. She began to see her battle through a broader lens, understanding her stand as part of a larger movement toward truth and empowerment for women everywhere. But just as hope flickered brightest, Robert's tactics grew more ruthless. He resorted to intimidation and emotional manipulation, even attempting to paint Olivia as unstable to gain favor. Each public hearing became a battlefield, testing Olivia's endurance and forcing her to confront her deepest fears. Yet, in those moments of crisis, she found clarity. The humiliation she endured fueled rather than felled her, transforming pain into purpose. The courtroom drama reached a fever pitch as Olivia prepared to make her most daring move yet, one that would expose Robert's deceit in full and shift the tide irrevocably. Would Olivia's courage be enough to shatter the facade and reclaim her life, or would the weight of betrayal overwhelm her before the final verdict? Her story beckons us to reflect on the resilience it takes to stand firm when all seems lost and to ask ourselves, when faced with injustice, can we find the strength to fight for our truth, no matter the cost?